pick and prevail in your fantasy football league with the help of our starting lineup. At host to quarterback the show, we have Nick Giacobbe. Up next, a dual threat in Dynasty and Daily Fantasy, we have Cody Repass. And finally, working the waiver wire, we have Nick Cap. These are your playmakers that will provide you with sleepers, breakouts, and busts to help you achieve fantasy glory. This is the PrimeTime Fantasy Podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 19 of the PrimeTime Fantasy Podcast, where we give you our predictions, our picks, in the hopes that we help you prevail throughout the 2021 fantasy football season. I am your host, Nick Giacobbe, and joining me is Nick Cap. Nick, we're doing a special live episode. We do promise a Tuesday show every week. We had scheduling conflicts with Halloween, Monday night, couldn't record, so we're still getting the show out on Tuesday. We're live right now, pal. We're live on Twitter. We're live on Facebook. We're live on YouTube. The audio version will be up later tonight. But Nick, how was your week 8 in the fantasy world?
Week was pretty solid. I mean, we were hoping, also with the Tuesday show, we figured, we got good timing because it'll be right after the trade deadline, and it was an absolute stink show. Absolutely nothing of value happened. That was newsworthy. So not so much news, but the only guy that I know news about is Mike White, Mr. New York, best quarterback in the city.
No, I don't want to talk about Mike White. I do not want to talk about Mike White. If this is your first time listening or watching the show, thank you so much. We do this show every Tuesday, every Friday, and every Sunday. For the Tuesday and Friday shows, you can find the audio version on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Anchor, Google Podcast, basically anywhere where you could find your podcast, you could find the PrimeTime Fantasy Podcast. But if you are on iTunes or Apple, whatever you want to call it, please give us a 5-star rating and a review. It does help us a lot. If you want to watch the video version of the show, it's our YouTube channel, PrimeTime Fantasy Podcast. For the Sunday show, we are going live at 11:30 every Sunday. We switch it from 11 to 11:30. Kind of depends on the weeks and the scheduling and all that other stuff, but we'll be doing 11:30 this weekend. 11:30, it's going to be a lot of fun. The injury news comes out for the 1 o'clock games. We go through each game, give you our favorite starts and sits, and we answer your questions. That's what we want to do. We want to help you with your lineups and your biggest start-sit issues. So we're going to help you with your start-sit issues every single week by helping with your questions. If you want to support us on social media, and please do, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok is PrimeTimeFFPod. Facebook and YouTube is PrimeTime Fantasy Podcast. Okay, Nick, let's start with segment 1, the injury updates. First off, Derrick Henry had foot surgery. He is out 6 to 10 weeks. I believe they're looking around that 8-week number. So it was week 9. So it's coming back right in the time for the end of the fantasy playoffs. There's a chance he could get there, but still, it's a big injury. It's a big injury for somebody that was drafted as a top 5 fantasy pick in 90% of leagues, and he's been the number 1 running back and probably the number 1 fantasy player in the year. Him or Cooper Kupp, it's a toss-up at that point, but it's a huge loss. I mean, we've now seen, we talk about the top 5 players drafted in a consensus of leagues. We've seen Christian McCaffrey miss, 5-6 games. We've seen Dalvin Cook miss, I think 3 or 4. We now have Derrick Henry out. Kamara's been pretty solid. And who's the 5th one that's usually been drafted? Who am I missing there? What running back?
Top 5?
Yeah, I'm missing one.
It went McCaffrey, Cook, Kamara, Henry, then Zeke, Saquon.
Yeah, I guess Saquon. I guess the 5th one depended. But anyway, a lot of injuries. And Nick Chubb also has been hurt a bit. Saquon's been hurt a bit. So a lot of injuries. So let's focus on Derrick Henry here. And Nick, if you have Derrick Henry on your fantasy roster, what do you do? What do you do with Derrick Henry?
I mean, you have to hold him because we heard it was season ending at first. And thank God we got the episode up today because we got a recent update that it's only 6 to 10 weeks. And he's out 6 weeks. He's there for your fantasy playoffs, and you can't not play Derrick Henry then. So it's good from the perspective of if you have Derrick Henry, you're probably a top 3 seed in your league because he's been so dominant unless you've had a slew of injuries everywhere else. So he should be back come playoff time. So you got to hold him. But, if it becomes one of those things like McCaffrey where it's lingering after 6 weeks and, it's closer to that 10-week mark, I mean, you're kind of screwed out of a roster spot. Thankfully, there's no one really worth picking up this late in the year. But, I mean, you're pretty much banking on him being back in 6 weeks, which is in time to start your playoff run.
Yeah, that's the thing. By the time he returns, if it is that, even if it's 6 weeks, we're going into week 9 now. If it's 6 weeks, week 15, your playoffs are probably starting week 15, so there's 18 weeks. So there's a chance, but you just don't know. So you got to keep him, but I don't think he's going to play a game in your fantasy playoffs. If he does, I mean, the Titans may just, if they're winning that division, why would they even bring him back at that point? But that's a whole nother conversation.
If I were a fringe team, like if I'm on the edge of playoffs and I had Derrick Henry on my roster, I'd go find that 1 seed and I'd go trade him for a mid-level player. Like if you need to fight to get into the playoffs, Derrick Henry's a big loss at running back. Like go look for someone like a Michael Carter who's starting to bloom. Go look for one of those, fringe running backs that has potential and see if they'll take Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry, if he's back for the playoffs, I mean, someone might say, I'm not going to be starting Michael Carter. I got 2 better running backs. Let me take my shot on Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry's locked in for 25 points a week when he's healthy. But, someone might be willing to take the flyer. But, I mean, if you're locked in, hold on to him. If you're a fringe, go look to trade him.
And they did sign Adrian Peterson. We'll talk about that in our waiver wire segment. Remus Winston tore his ACL and ended up dancing on crutches because he is an absolute madman. I feel for Jameis, man. He's one of the most fun players in the league to watch because he's the definition of unpredictability. He's like a magic 8-ball. When he goes out on the field, you shake him up and you say, what Jameis are we getting today? Are you getting good Jameis? Shake it up. Outlook not so good. Or you shake it up, it's, yes, outlook good. You never know what you're getting with Jameis. And that's kind of the fun of watching Jameis Winston, unless you're a Saints fan, because then you're kind of clawing at your head. But it sucks for the guy who's had a kind of solid season. He's probably had I know the Bucs, he had that 30 for 30 season with the 5,000 yards, but he was winning games. Sean Payton was winning games with him, and they've won competitive football games. They've beaten the Bucs. They smushed the Packers. The Seahawks in Seattle, as dismantled as they are, they won the football game. So it sucks for Jameis, but from a fantasy perspective, Jameis wasn't really starting, and you weren't really starting the receivers. You weren't starting Marquez Callaway. You weren't starting Traquan Smith. Alvin Kamara has proven that he can play with just about any quarterback. So it's going to be Taysom Hill or Trevor Siemian suiting up this week. I think Kamara is still a top 5 running back in fantasy. So from a fantasy perspective, I don't have much more to say. It's not going to affect fantasy for the most part. But Nick, anything you'd like to say from a fantasy perspective with Jameis Winston?
We got to see if Taysom Hill's there because Kamara takes the biggest hit if Taysom's there. Kamara kind of struggled to maintain an RB1 status with Taysom Hill at quarterback. There's rumors now swirling that Phillip Rivers might get the job if the Saints want him. But we'll take a look at that. If it's Phillip Rivers, Kamara's stock goes up. Phillip Rivers is known to check down to the running back often. It's a good situation for Kamara. But outside of that, most of the receivers you aren't playing anyway. Michael Thomas is really the biggest hit, and he hasn't seen the field yet at all. So that's the only player to really concern about, unless Kamara and Thomas. I really wouldn't think of anyone else that has too much fantasy value.
And I'll be honest, I don't know if Michael Thomas is going to hit the field because we don't know what his case is. So we'll see about that. Moving on to not so much injury news, but Calvin Ridley announced that I'm going to read the statement here, that he'll be taking time off from football. I know he's missed, I think, 2 games already with an undisclosed medical issue, which is a mental issue. So he said, these past few weeks have been very challenging, and as much as I'd like to be on the field competing with my teammates, I need to step away from football at this time and focus on my mental well-being. This will help me be the best version of myself now and in the future. I want to thank my teammates, the entire Atlanta Falcons organization, our great fans, my friends, my family, for all their support during this time. So I'm going to keep the life mental part short. I wish the best for him. I struggle with mental health. I know people that struggle with mental health. It can be a lot at times. So I don't know what he's going through. It's not really our business. Hopefully his teammates are supportive. Hopefully his family is supportive. Hopefully everybody around him is giving him a good support system, and hopefully we can see him on the field at some point again this season. That's all I'm going to say on the mental part, because that's not what I'm here to talk about. The fantasy part, you drafted him in round 2. Or 3. He was a high draft pick, probably as a wide receiver 1. I even predicted him to be the wide receiver 1 on the season. So I should get my clown nose on, because that's not going to happen. You're taking away the mental part. The games that he's played in, he hasn't played great. And that could be a mental thing. Could be the Falcons are just a whole clown show over there. I hate the Atlanta Falcons. If I'm talking about teams that I just despise watching, because they just annoy me, probably because of the talent that's there and the production isn't. The Atlanta Falcons are like at the tippy top. So I can't stand the Atlanta Falcons. It's a big hit to your team, though, because now he's on your bench. I wouldn't drop him. He's on your bench for a while until he comes back, if he does come back this season. So he's on your bench. And it's a hit for the Falcons. So, Nick, if you want to touch on the mental thing for a second, that's fine. But then how will this affect the other Falcons from a fantasy perspective?
So from the mental aspect, of course, me and Nick, we wish the best for him. You know, obviously mental health is a challenging issue, and we're rooting for him. We're rooting for him to get back on the field. We're rooting for him to get better for himself, regardless of football. From a fantasy perspective, I mean, from a life perspective with athletes, you don't see them make a mental health statement. You know, you see someone say personal time, they're usually gone a game or two. For someone to go out of their way to post about it and become very public with it, that says there's some stuff going on where he's going to be gone a little while. You're not drafting Calvin Ridley because of how high you had to draft him. For an outlook, I would have told you go pick up Russell Gage this week, put up an absolute goose egg, and it wasn't because he didn't see the field. He played 60 snaps. Tajay Sharp was the productive wide receiver. Kyle Pitts fell short. Cordell Patterson, I think he had a decent week. You know, from a fantasy perspective, there's a lot of question marks on that team. I don't have any answers this week. There's other guys I'd rather pick up, but I think next week's waiver wire will have a lot of clarity for who's the guy.
Like Kyle Pitts, like they're going to zone in on him. I don't know if it's going to benefit him because he'll be getting triple teamed, or if it's going to, I don't know. So we'll see about that.
Kyle Pitts' best fantasy game this year was with Calvin Ridley not there. So
there you go.
You know, so I'm not worried about Pitts. He's still going to have a little roller coaster ride no matter.
Right. So we'll see on that one. Kyler Murray, he has a left ankle injury that he suffered in the Thursday night game against the Packers. I saw conflicting reports. A few days ago, I saw a report that he was going to be out 1 to 3 weeks, and the Seahawks fan of me is like, all right, we got him in 3 weeks. But then I saw a report that Cliff Kingsbury is not ruling him out for this week, and that Jay Glazer from Fox Sports is reporting that he's not projected to miss a significant amount of time. So it sounds like Kyler avoided a pretty serious injury, and he's going to suit up this week against the San Francisco. Well, it sounds like the only game he could miss is against the San Francisco 49ers. Colt McCoy is the backup. So let's assume he's missing just 1 week for now. We'll have more information on our Friday show, but let's assume he's out. Just for now, he's out against the 49ers. How do you feel about the rest of that offense? Because I've said they're the best offense in football. They're very versatile. They have a couple really good receivers and good running backs. How do you feel about it, Nick?
If I am a Chase Edmonds or a James Conner owner, I am locking them in this week if Kyler's not there. Even if he is there with a dinged up ankle, he's not running as much. And Chase Edmonds' production comes from catching the ball. James Conner comes from running the ball. That's where the two of them find production. And it's going to go up with Colt McCoy at quarterback. Outside of them, I would love to tell you lock in D-Hop, but D-Hop struggled even with Kyler this year.
He's locked in no matter what, though. He's playing on your team no matter what.
You have to play him, but I'm a little concerned for him and the rest of the receiving options out there. I think Edmonds takes the biggest bump up from this because there's no more running Kyler with an injury or with a backup in there.
Right. James Robinson seemed to avoid a nasty injury, or even nasty is not the right word, a serious injury. It looked like it could have been serious. He went out of the game against the Seahawks. I think he had 4 carries, 22 yards or something, went out in the early of the first quarter, but it's just a bruised heel. It's not serious. He's listed as day-to-day, but he could miss this Sunday's game against the Buffalo Bills. So if he does miss, first off, Nick, if he plays, are you playing him against the Bills? Are you playing him confidently or not confidently?
I mean, he's had so many good weeks where I feel like you just have to play him and just hope for the best at that point. It's his backfield since ETN's been hurt. I'm not, you're not concerned with him seeing less of the field, and you're not concerned with really seeing less of a workload. If he's out there, he's playing, and Urban Meyer's going to use him as much as he can.
What about if he's out? Is Carlos Hyde somebody that you're going to fire up?
No, the Bills have been good at stopping the run, stopping the pass. Bills are probably the top 3 defense in the league right now. And Jacksonville is one of the worst 3 offenses in the NFL. From that perspective, the offense really runs through Robinson. I'm not looking to play any of the backups there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking right now to see where they currently rank the Bills. Just trying to see where they rank when in terms of rushing numbers against the against other fantasy teams. They're like middle of the pack. I mean, they're like 15 or something. So the run defense has given up some fantasy points. Their running backs. Yeah, I mean, the position is so thin. If you have to fire up Carlos Hyde, I mean, we have a couple teams on bye, the Lions. So DeAndre Swift is out. Seahawks, whether you have Collins or Carson. Bucks, playoff Lenny, and the football team, Gibson or what's his name? McKissick. So you may have to play Carlos Hyde if he's on your waiver wire. That's somebody that you may want to consider picking up just in case, especially if you own James Robinson. He should be your number one waiver target. And looking at the show notes, I don't know why he's not on our waiver wire, so I'm throwing him on there right now. Henry Ruggs, DUI. He was arrested this morning. He looks like he could be facing 2 to 3 years in jail. He should be dropped in all fantasy leagues. That's all I got to say. Yeah, he's not playing another game this year, I don't think. So there you go. Some other bits of news, not really much to talk about, but just news that we can update you on. Christian McCaffrey is expected to practice Wednesday and could play this week against the Patriots. Again, it's Tuesday, so we'll talk about this on our Friday show, but hey, you may be able to fire him up this week. This one's really funny because I saw a report, a Pete Carroll interview I think it was Friday, and Pete Carroll says, yeah, Chris Carson may not play another game for us this year unless he turns a corner. The next day, Pete Carroll, I think, does another interview where he says, oh, he might practice and play against the Packers. What? I can't stand this old man anymore. I can't. I'm not even a Chris Carson guy, but I can't. How do you go from he may not play again the season to, oh, he may practice? Those are two polar opposites. It makes zero sense. It's one or the other, Pete. He's either healthy enough where he can practice or he's out. Like, I understand that there's medical tests. It's a neck. You want to be careful with the neck. But why say the second statement then? Why even, are you trying to trick Matt LaFleur and the Packers maybe? Because guess what? The boogeyman Aaron Rodgers does not care if Chris Carson is playing. Trust me. He's licking his chops looking at that Seahawks defense. He's going to go John Wick all over them. And his Halloween costume ruled. It absolutely ruled. I'm not a Rodgers guy, but Rodgers' costume ruled. But Nick, what do you make of this Carson news? Because I just want your point on this. It makes zero sense to me.
I mean, I'm going to be honest. I didn't even see the news. I didn't see that. I'm a Jets fan. I've not seen much on Carson. I just know he was on the IR. And I saw him, on the waiver wire, and I picked him up just because, just in case he comes back. But my God, what a conflicting report. I know, I'm going to say this on Nick's behalf. Nick hates Pete Carroll and wants him out of Seattle more than anything in the world. And my God, I mean, what kind of coaching, this is like playing a trick on your own team. This isn't even like those mental games you play against your opponent. It feels like he's screwing with his old team. I think this is
so weird
decision.
Why can't it just be Russell Wilson's situation where every few days he posts some inspirational quote and then a picture of his hand and he's like, yeah, I'm coming back. So Sterling Shepard left Monday's game with a quad injury. Not serious. They were kind of working it out. He's dealt with a quad injury, I think, parts of the season. So just wanted to update you guys on that. Logan Thomas, hamstring injuries, missed the last 3 games. He's expected to return to practice after the Week 9 bye. Again, just an update. I forget who they're facing on Week 9, but again, we'll have to wait till next week for more information on that. But if you're a Logan Thomas owner, that's good news. Noah Fant went on the COVID list today. We don't know if he has COVID. He could miss this week's game. He's currently the tight end 8 on the year. So if you are looking at your waiver wire and you have Noah Fant, I don't know who's even available at this point. Maybe Dan Arnold, but there's not a lot there. So you may have to pick up somebody just in case. All right, let's now go to the weekly wrap. We're going to give you the biggest studs and duds from each position from Week 8. We're going to start off with the quarterbacks. Week 1, my quarterback 1 fantasy on the year, Josh Allen, 29.4 points. Justin Fields showed up without Matt Nagy. Matt Nagy's the problem. He's the problem. I can't even start because I'm going to get into it. 25.4 points, quarterback 4 on the year. Quarterback 8, Ryan Tannehill. I should say Fields isn't the quarterback 4 on the year on the week. Excuse me, Ryan Tannehill, quarterback 8, 21 points, and Carson Wentz, quarterback 18. I threw in Tannehill and Wentz because we talked about it last week in our lock and flop segment. So I think you had Wentz and I had Tannehill. So Tannehill did finish top 10, Wentz right outside. the top 10, and some weird names are in there. Mike White was in there. Jimmy Garoppolo was in there. So I think we did pretty good with our lock flop. And Joe Burrow made me eat his words because he was also a top 10 quarterback. And I said he was going to have a good game. I just didn't expect him to have 40, and he didn't. I think he had 27. So he did outdo his projection by a point in my Dynasty League. So, but Nick, who is your biggest quarterback stud on the week?
It's Justin Fields. I mean, Fields has been the first rookie quarterback that kind of delivered on a fantasy week. Out of all of them, I don't really think anyone's finished with that many points. Maybe Mac Jones did once.
Trevor may have once. Oh no, Mac Jones had a big game.
Maybe Mac Trevor had. I think Fields. I don't think any of them have hit 25 yet. I think this is Fields' big week. And I think they lost this week. This is a good reason to fire Matt Nagy. Your rookie quarterback looked way better without your coach there. I mean, this is the first good game he had played. Even off a loss, I don't care. Fields looked good. Fields played a lot like Justin Hurts usually does, or Jalen Hurts. From a fantasy perspective, like he did it mostly on the ground, which came from his production. I mean, Fields looked good. And, if you're in need of another quarterback and it's late, keep your eye out for Fields. There's hope there.
Yeah, there is. I'm trying to figure out who the quarterback won on the years. I think it might be Kyler because Josh.
It's Tom Brady.
It is Brady.
Yep.
All right. Well, I'll talk about Josh Allen because I said he's going to be my fantasy quarterback one on the year. I think you called him a bust at the beginning of the year. He may have.
No, I said your same Joe Burrow take. Everybody's saying he's going to average a number 1, number 2 in points.
Yeah. And he's number 2 in the year. And he had his bye, right? They had their bye because did they?
I'll check right now for you.
I forget. They did, yeah. So he's quarterback 2 in the year.
But,
he's already had his bye.
He still has to play the Jets twice. So
he's going to load up those stats. Yeah. Josh Allen's finishing as the quarterback 1. And I don't even know who's front runner for MVP at this point. Stafford, maybe? Might be Stafford. I don't know. Brady. I don't know. He just lost to the Saints.
Rodgers.
Maybe. I don't know.
Go ahead.
Russell Wilson's going to win the MVP when he rips off like 8 straight after coming back from his injury. The duds on the week. Patrick Mahomes. He's been a dud on the years. He's quarterback 17 with 14 points. Justin Herbert. He's fallen off of these last few weeks. Quarterback 18, 13 points. Jalen Hurts, his first bad week in a while, it seems like 22 points, 11.2. And Kyler Murray, I know he's banged up, but only 9 points. I didn't watch that game, but I think he threw a couple picks. So, Nick, who's your biggest dud on the week for the quarterbacks?
I mean, Jalen Hurts I'm going to talk about, but, Hurts had a rough week, but I'm only talking about him because this is his only fantasy week under 20 points this year.
How did Hurts have I guess the running backs got all the touchdowns. That's why, because the Eagles demolished the Lions. I was screaming that the Lions were going to win this game, and I was so wrong. I was so wrong. Terrible take by me. Terrible. One of my worst takes on this show.
Yeah, so Jalen Hurts has not scored under 20 fantasy points a single time other than this week. And he only had to throw the ball 14 times. He's
the quarterback 4 in the year, by the way. So.
Yeah, he's had a monster season. Don't take too much away from a Lions team that they blew out. This was a wacky fantasy week. I mean, between Mike White and Cooper Rush and there was one more and Trevor Siemian all delivering as fantasy quarterbacks. I'm not taking much away from this week. Whatever. Weird matchup with the Lions, got up early and wasn't even a battle. Only threw the ball 14 times. Eagles are going to be down in most of their games the rest of the year. I'm not worried about that stat line.
Let's talk about Pat Mahomes because he's a quarterback 6 on the year, which isn't bad, but he's somebody that was probably drafted around 4 or 5. Last 2 games, 7 points and 14 points. And then in week 5 against Buffalo, he only had 18. Week 6 against the football team is 22. It's not bad numbers, but you're drafting this guy around 4 or 5. You're expecting 25 plus every week. Standard leagues, he's only scored 25 plus twice. He scored 24 one of them, but Pat Mahomes has been underwhelming this year. And I don't want to say defenses have figured him out because I'm still on the side of the Chiefs are still the Chiefs and they're going to get right. But I don't know, man. It seems like the Buffalo Bills kind of actually the Bucs put a blueprint out there in the Super Bowl. The Bills have followed it. The Ravens kind of followed it. The Tennessee Titans and now the Giants just put 2 deep safeties. Don't even let them go deep. And they're not adjusting. There's no run game They're not adjusting to it, and Mahomes looks like he's doing too much. He looks like Russell Wilson. He looks like a guy who has a bottom 10 defense in the league and no run game and feels like he has to do every single thing possible or this team isn't going to win. Pat Mahomes is playing like Russell Wilson. And you know what? Russell Wilson's a great quarterback. And there's a reason why I've argued for years why Russell Wilson is the best quarterback in the league because of how much he has to deal with. And when it comes to the bad defense, the no run game, yada, yada, and then terrible offensive line. But Mahomes is just running around like a chicken without a head at the moment. So you still play him every week. He's not going to be a dud every week. But it's why I don't draft quarterbacks in rounds 4 and 5. I just don't do it. On to the running backs. Running back 1, Michael Carter. Nick, you get to take a big old victory lap. I know you're going to talk about him. So I'm going to let you take a victory lap after this because I was wrong. R-O-N. Actually, can I sign this? I think I can. Let's see. W-R-O and N-G wrong. Followed by Austin Eckler, running back 3, 24 points. Elijah Mitchell, running back 8, 19 points. So Nick, talk about Michael Carter for a bit.
Michael Carter, I warned you all. Mike White at quarterback last week. He saw 9 targets because the quarterback can't throw. Zach Wilson, he does not check down. This was a lesson for Zach Wilson to learn that you need to take what's given to you. Mike White had 129 passing yards before yards after the catch. He finished with 405 passing yards. That's practically 300 yards worth of running after the ball. And Michael Carter was the biggest benefactor. And since his bye week, Michael Carter has the second most targets in the NFL, only to Tyreek Hill. Michael Carter looks like a good running back in this league. My prediction, it's a very bold one. He's the next Alvin Kamara in this league. He looks so good.
You're going bold.
I'm going bold. I love what I see. If Zach Wilson takes back the starting role, it's going to be checked. It's going to have to be more checked down. And if he does it, this kid's got a high ceiling. He looks really good.
I want to mention Austin Eckler. He didn't practice all week. He put himself in his fantasy lineup, and it looks like Austin Eckler probably won his fantasy matchup because he was the running back 3 on the week with 24 points. I think he's the running back 1 on the year right now. Is he the running back 1?
He's RB2 to Derrick Henry, but Henry's hurt now.
Yeah, so the running back 1 is up for grabs at the moment. And Eckler's points are phenomenal. He's at over 20 points. 5 out of 7 weeks. The other 2, 11 and 9. So one of them was against Baltimore when his team just got absolutely smushed. So week 1, and week kind of weird. So
people understand how good of a year Eckler has had. He's the RB2 on the year. Running back rankings go off your total points. He's had his bye already. Najee, Kamara, Jonathan Taylor, DeAndre Swift, all guys under him.
And those are the top 5 probably. That's probably the top 5 right there.
Your top 5 is it's Henry who's hurt.
Derrick Henry didn't have his bye either, right? I don't think Derrick Henry's had his bye.
No, he hasn't. Eckler's averaging 21 points per game. He's good for the RB2 on the year right now. It's a 3-headed race in my opinion with Eckler, Swift, and Taylor for who finishes as the RB1. All 3 have been phenomenal. Same thing with Najee. Najee could finish as well.
It's funny, those later round, second round running backs seem to be blooming a little bit. I know Taylor, people weren't sure if he was a first rounder. I drafted him in 4 leagues. Najee was pretty much a second rounder. I love that I have him in our league. Wish he was a keeper. But yeah, these second round running backs seem to be booming a little bit. And I got to mention Elijah Mitchell. I've been off the 49ers and I'm kind of going on Elijah Mitchell. His last 2 games, 18 attempts in both of them, 107 yards, 137 yards, a touchdown in each, 16 points, and followed by 19 in standard leagues. He's on rosters now, so I'm saying Elijah Mitchell, I think, is the bell cow right now in San Francisco. The Trey Sermon show is over. Kyle Juszczyk always is going to lurk around the goal line, and Debo is going to get little dinks and dunks because Kyle Shanahan hates our fantasy teams. But Elijah Mitchell, he's a running back too. You could play him as a running back too. The running back duds on the week, we have a lot of duds. 27, Zeke Elliott, 11.3 points. 36, Antonio Gibson, 8.4 points. 38, DeAndre Swift, 8.1 points. 39, Nick Chubb, 7.9. 41, Dalvin Cook, 7.8. 44, Leonard Fournette, 7.3. Before you talk, Nick, I nailed Leonard Fournette. He was my big flop of the week. The Saints defense are really, really good against running backs. The way that I do lock and flop, if you're playing Jalen Ramsey, I'm putting you on flop, but I was wrong because Cook Cooks cooked it up last week. And if you're a running back playing the Saints, I'm probably going to flop you too. So that's kind of how it goes. Nick, who's your biggest running back flop on the week?
I'm going to talk about Dalvin Cook for a little bit. There's not been a lot of word on this podcast about him. In the last 6 weeks, he had missed 2. He's only delivered on one of those weeks. I
don't think he's right. Something's off about him. I think my prediction is after the season, I think someone's going to come out that he played with something, and then they're going to call him a warrior. And he probably is a warrior, but from a fantasy perspective, he's the running back 29 on the year. So.
Yeah, he's struggled. In my opinion, I'm going to trade for Dalvin Cook. He's the RB30, and the guy that's owning him is struggling and probably very frustrated that in the last 6 weeks, he's only finished as an RB1 once and has not finished in the top 36 more than once. Cook struggled on the year. There's a good chance that the guy that owns him is looking to trade him, and if you can get him, go get him.
I don't know who I want to talk about because I'll take Swift out of there. Swift had a bad game script. It happens. Ezekiel Elliott.
I think that's a good reason to talk about him. Because the Lions always have a bad game script, and he delivers.
But the Lions game script is usually they're usually fighting for their team. They're usually competing. Yes, they are. They're usually competing. Yes, they are. The Lions are a competitive football team.
Dude, they just got smoked by the Eagles. I don't want to hear it.
No, but until this week, the Lions were a competitive football team. I'm telling you they were. I'll tell you the scores of the game.
No,
the Lions have been competitive.
Trust me, I watch football. I see the Lions, but come on.
They've been competitive.
Come on. This was the game that people said, here's your hope. Nick
I
G.
know. I said it. I was wrong. I told you I was wrong. I signed it that I was wrong. I was wrong.
The host of the Primetime Fantasy Podcast said they're going to smoke.
It's a fantasy podcast. It's a fantasy podcast, not an NFL predictor podcast. Thank God. But if it was, I'm number 2 in my spread pool on the season. So I do pretty well at that too. I'll take Swift out of it. I know the game script will probably not be great every week, but I'm not worried about him. Nick Chubb, man. They had Baker back. I don't even know if the Browns won. Who did the Browns face this week? I don't even remember the Browns game. It was never on the red zone. Oh, the Steelers. They lost to the Steelers. Yeah, it was never on the red zone. Yeah, I don't know, man. Nick Chubb. I think Kareem Hunt might be the running back 1 on that team because Chubb just doesn't. He's another one with Cook. Just doesn't look right. Antonio Gibson, another one. He hasn't gotten the production from day one. They haven't been using him in the passing game. The injury worries me now. I don't know, man. He's getting really close to being benched, Antonio Gibson. And as for Zeke, Cooper Rush, man. What a game. What a game for him and the wide receivers. They still aired out that ball. But I'm not worried about Zeke. The Cowboys, you kind of got to pick your poison. You're going to stop the receivers or the running back, and the Cowboys look really, really good right now. Wide receivers, A.J. Brown, 31 points. Michael Pittman, my stud on the week. I think he was my stud on the week. Yeah, he was. 30 points, wide receiver 2. Chris Godwin, who Nick continues to dunk on, wide receiver. Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
No, I said yep.
Yes,
I'm saying yes.
Oh, okay. I saw you shake your head. Wide receiver 3, 28.
I hate him so much.
I love Godwin. He's great.
I hate him.
28 points. Amari Cooper, 26 points. Tyler Lockett, wide receiver 6, 26 points. Where was Cooper Kupp? I guess he's in the top 10 somewhere.
He was probably number 4.
No, I have to look this up now. Who do you want to talk about?
Tyreek was 4. Cooper was number 7.
Tyreek was 4. Yeah, I remember I didn't put Tyreek in because he's Tyreek. All right, I got to talk about Tyler Lockett because I said you bench Tyler Lockett. I said he's had his boom game. I said no Russell Wilson. You bench Tyler Lockett. I was wrong. And there's also a theme on Twitter that DK and Tyler Lockett can't both have good games, and they both did. They both had over 20 fantasy points. So both of them had good games. So
that was wrong. Russell Wilson. Time to
I was wrong, and Russ is coming back next week, it looks like. So Tyler Lockett gets a little bump up there. Who do you want to talk about, Nick?
You already talked about Pittman. We talk about A.J. Brown too often. I'm going to apologize to Godwin just for a little bit. Godwin, I don't like you. I haven't liked you since your first fantasy year where, you felt like every week I had to face you and you were the biggest steal and I didn't think of you at all. But I more of my hate stems from everybody thinking he was a top 10 NFL receiver after his first boom year. And I said, no, he wasn't. I mean, the guy's played well. He's played well. I'm sorry for shitting on you so often, but I'm not going to stop. Wait till Antonio Brown comes back and Godwin's a bust again.
I want to also mention that Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb, if people were kind of low on them with Cooper Rush starting, but man, fantasy winning games for those two.
I stacked the two of them in a game.
You probably won that matchup. The 4 I had 4 matchups up. Oh, 3 in up in the air. 1 I had already won. I didn't check my score till the end of the night. Like the game was over. I checked the score. I needed 29 from Tyreek Hill. This league is bonuses. So I checked the score of the game first. And I go, man, there's no way he even got close. Whatever. I checked my fantasy score. I got 27 from Tyreek Hill.
That's why Nick really didn't put him here.
I was the number 3 scorer on the week in my league. And in that league, I'm only like 6th in points. So my team's very inconsistent. I could have used that win. Anyway, wide receiver duds on the week. Jalen Waddle, 6.9 points. Terry McLaurin, 6.5. Justin Jefferson, 4.1. And Mike Williams, 3.9. Who's your biggest dud of the week, Nick?
I would talk about Mike Williams, but I kind of predicted it. New England shuts down, somebody, and Mike Williams is the biggest guy that makes the Chargers good at everything. I'm going to talk a little bit about Justin Jefferson. What a weird result. Justin Jefferson was drafted to be a top 2 guy. You don't expect Justin Jefferson to finish with 4.1. That's not the type of week he should have ever. And that was in a game against Dallas where they had no starting quarterback.
Yeah, weird. Adam Thielen had a good game. It's just very weird.
Thielen played fine. Thielen was someone I said would stink on the year, and I'm shocked. I'm genuinely shocked Jefferson had a bad week. The game where I stacked the 2 of them, I also had Justin Jefferson as the 3rd wide receiver there. So Jefferson held down the other 2. But yeah, tough week for Jefferson. What a weird one. That's one I'm keeping my eye out on more because Kirk Cousins is Kirk Cousins. And I'm not happy as a Justin Jefferson owner, knowing that that's what that his floor that we thought was, 8 to 10 points. Nope. It's a lot lower than that.
I'm curious about Terry McLaurin and Mike Williams because Mike Williams last 4 weeks, 2, 36 against Cleveland, 4 and 3. His targets are good. 4, 16 against Cleveland. I think I faced him that week. 4. Yeah, that's the week I lost because of Mike Williams. 4, 16, 5, and 5. So his targets are good. 5 targets a game is good. It's a great number. But
yeah, it's less than Robbie Anderson, but somehow that's a good number.
And Terry McLaurin, like I've boasted about how great of a receiver he is on the show, but his last 4, 8, 6, 25, 6. And if you want to go back a few more weeks, inconsistent from Terry McLaurin. 10, 27, 10, 30, 8, 6, 25, 6. And he's on bye now. That's pretty inconsistent for a wide receiver that you draft. And you probably drafted around 3 or 4, but he's a good wide receiver, good player, but that team, no good. No good. The football team, no. Get Terry out of here. No good. All right.
Real quick, this is I didn't want to say it, but someone in one of my other leagues traded Terry McLaurin for Devontae Parker. And it's so hard to think about, but when you look when they play from a points per game perspective, the guy that got Devontae Parker won the trade.
No. Don't. No. Stop.
I'm just saying, based off what they've done when they're out there.
I'm gonna bonk you.
I love McLaurin. McLaurin's a top 10 wide receiver in this league.
No, I'm bonking you. That's terrible. No.
Well, I didn't do the trade.
No.
I didn't veto it.
But Devontae Parker gets hurt consistently, and he's the number 2 option on that team. I'll still trust Terry McLaurin every week.
Didn't look like it this week.
We'll see. All right, tight ends. Tight end 1, TJ Hawkinson. I think I spoke about him highly on last week's show. I forget them, honestly.
I did, and I shit on him.
Dan Arnold, tight end 2, 14 points. Tight end 3, Pat Freiermuth with 14 points. Tight end 4, Dallas Goedert finally played like we thought he would. Who was your biggest tight end stud of the week, Nick?
I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not talking about any of them. There's nothing to take away from this tight end week.
Yes, there is.
No, there's not. They all stink. There is not a single one of those guys.
Apologize to TJ Hawkinson.
All right, I'm sorry. Hawkinson, I said you'd struggle, and it turns out your team sucked a lot more than I thought you would.
He doesn't stink.
I thought your team would stink more than they did this, or less than they did this week. And because you had no time in the pocket and Jared Goff had to just huck it and chuck it to you because everybody else stunk, you had the best fantasy week with less than 20 points at your position. I'm not taking anything away from this week.
I'll talk about Dallas Goedert then. Dallas Goedert, his last 4 weeks, 16, 4, 12, and 13. averaging 5 targets a week. I'll take that for a tight end. Dallas Goedert, somebody you could trust now. You're starting him every week. Unless you have like Kelsey or Waller, you could trust him. He's going to be a top 10 tight end on the year. And the bust on the week, Travis Kelsey, 4.7, a very, very rare bad Travis Kelsey game. Hunter Henry, 4.3, Kyle Pitts, 3.3, and Ricky Seals-Jones, 3.2. Who do you want to talk about, Nick?
We're going to talk a little Kyle Pitts. No Calvin
Ridley.
Ridley.
I wanted to talk about Kyle Pitts.
You had your chance to step up. You did it against the Jets in London. And, you have your chance with no Ridley there, and you're not delivering. He's a fantasy roller coaster. He's a rookie at tight end. I think he had his first drop since college this past week. Don't take too much away from it. Go get Kyle Pitts if you could trade for him. It's stupid that people want to trade him. I saw he's one of the biggest trade away targets because Calvin Ridley wasn't there and he had a bad week. No, he's not. No, he's not. No. Go get him. Get him. I don't think so.
Yeah. Hunter Henry and Ricky Seals-Jones, bad weeks. 2 guys that we've been high on. So just weird weeks. I hate the Falcons. That's all I got. All right. Those are our thuds and duds from the week. Let's get into, if I could find it, because I didn't have this loaded up, because I don't know why. But anyway, let's get into our waiver wire week 9 targets. So we're at the point of the year where nobody on the waiver wire. There's just nobody there. So we're going to give you a couple of names that you could consider. But honestly, I looked at this list that we put together, and I don't really like any of them. So anyway, waiver wire names. If you need a quarterback, Nick says that he thinks Mike White is going to be rostered in 45% of leagues. Yep. If you are a human that decides to roster Mike White on your fantasy football team, you are one of the 45% of stupid idiots. Don't do it. I think the number is going to be much lower. I don't think it's going to be close to 45. Because most leagues, you need 2 quarterbacks, 20 quarterbacks are on teams. No. Mike White is not a top 20 fantasy quarterback. No. Running backs, Boston Scott or Jordan Howard. I don't know how to navigate the Eagles backfield, so whatever. Titans backfield, Adrian Peterson, Jeremy McNichols, same thing. I don't know. I would take AP, though, because he's AP. Carlos Hyde, if you have James Robinson, he's a guy you should definitely go just to make sure you have the handcuff, and Van Jefferson. Nick, is there any of these guys that you want? Because honestly, there's nobody that I really want. I mean, maybe I'll take a flyer on one of the Eagles running backs or maybe AP, but there's nobody that just jumps out to me where I need to get that guy. I'll be upset at 3 a.m. tomorrow morning if I don't get him.
I'm with you there. I'm not going to be upset if I don't get anyone here. Quick notes. Mike White is the next Kyle Allen, and what I mean by that is he replaced the starting quarterback, is going to have 3 to 4 good weeks as a quarterback, and then it's going to be like, oh, yeah, this is why you've been a backup for your entire career. That's the Mike White career arc. That's exactly what's going to happen. The Kyle Allen career arc. That's exactly what's going to happen with Mike White. He'll be a backup for the rest of his career. I'm a Jets fan. I saw the game. He looked great. 37 for 45. It's not going to happen again. I'm sorry. You're not a backup for that long and do that consistently. The last guy that did that was Tom Brady. If he's the next Tom Brady, I'm fine being wrong because he's a Jet. End of story. For the Titans backfield, do not pick up Adrian Peterson. They are going to need the goal line work. They are not going to give the ball to him 30 times a game and go score touchdowns. That's not going to happen with Adrian Peterson. Not with Derrick Henry not there. Jared McNichols will be a check down guy. I like McNichols better than AP. I think they split the backfield 50-50, and he's got the receiving upside. And for the Eagles backfield, Kenneth Gainwell out-touched the other 2 running backs there. I'm not touching any of them. I'm not playing.
I thought he didn't. I don't think he out-touched them. I thought they both had more touches than him.
No, Kenneth Gainwell had more touches than Boston Scott by 1, but he did not see the end zone. Boston Scott looked as the better back.
God. Yeah. So anyway, that's the waiver wire for this week. We're going to end the show with one of my favorite segments that we do, Stash or Trash. We're going to tell you if these players are guys you should keep on your roster, or you should drop them for somebody off your waiver wire. So let's talk about some backup running backs here. Alex Collins, Nick. Chris Carson may come back, may not. I think he had less than 5 points the last 2 out of 3 weeks. So is he a stash or a trash for you?
Double-digit touches the last 2 games that he played. They just came off by. They're going on by. They're going on by. I think it's time. I think you could drop them comfortably.
If you see me reacting, the college football committee is drunk right now. The top 4 is Georgia, Bama, Michigan State, and Oregon.
Michigan State, let's go, baby.
No, I hate them. Nope. They don't want me. I don't want them. I don't want
MSU,
them.
we
They
go
don't want
green
me.
all the
So
way
nope.
across the board, boys.
I'm not going to use profanity on the show, but nope. They can. Nope. No thanks. I'm stashing Alex Collins because if Chris Carson is out for the year, Alex Collins will play better with Russell Wilson because the defense won't be able to just blitz the whole time because Pete Carroll won't be running halfback dive for 90% of the times like he's playing Madden. So Collins will play better with Russell Wilson.
The defense against the Seahawks has been the same as what they do to Kansas City. They play 2 high safety. So every game where DK or Lockett is limited, it's usually because the running back is able to benefit.
Yep.
So Collins should be fine, but I just don't trust that backfield now.
What about Chubba Hubbard? McCaffrey, he's going to be back this week or next week unless he has another setback. So are you stashing Chubba Hubbard?
Not a single person should drop Chubba Hubbard. Not a single.
I'm right with you because you know what? McCaffrey right now, he's injury prone.
Chubba Hubbard should be rostered in 99% of leagues. The only league he shouldn't is if it's less than 6 people in your league.
Yeah, if it's a 6 or an 8-man league, yeah. McCaffrey's missed, I think, 16 of his last 20 games.
Yep.
I think. Maybe it's 15, 14. The number is high. It's more than 50% with 3 different
He's played
injuries.
4 games in the last 20.
Yeah, so, yeah, there you go. All right. Tony Pollard. He's rostered in like 57% of leagues, but you know what? I'm saying drop him because Zeke looks like the bell cow this year. Maybe losing weight helped. Maybe the offense is more balanced. I don't know what it is, but Zeke looks like the guy. So I'm dropping Tony Pollard unless I own Zeke.
I'm right with you because there is probably no running back in the league that will have more of a guaranteed workload if their RB1 goes down than Tony Pollard. But if you're not owning Zeke, you're just wasting a bench spot hoping someone gets injured at this point.
Yeah. The final 2 are Ohio State and Cincinnati, by the way. What about David Johnson?
No.
Did we talk about David Johnson? I'm dropping I'm dropping David Johnson. I'm dropping Phillip Lindsay too. No Texans running backs. Drop. All right, we got some interesting wide receivers here. Robbie Anderson, did he even play? Was he a ghost? Was he a ghost for Halloween, or did he get hurt?
He got hurt. He got
hurt.
Did you see he got popped by the Falcons DB?
No, I didn't. I must.
Okay, I'll send you the play after the show.
Anyway, I'm dropping Robbie Anderson. He hasn't been good this year. I've said for weeks on this segment that you should drop Robbie Anderson, so I'm dropping him.
You can drop him. I'm sorry. I love you, Robbie. You'll always be in my heart as a
awesome. Odell Beckham Jr. I know Nick has some strong opinions.
I'm sorry. I had to stop myself from saying a bad curse word towards Baker Mayfield. I saw a great stat this week. I've been saying it on the show for the past 2. Baker Mayfield, you know the turnover-worthy play stat?
The one, the Mahomes one that I love, where Mahomes led the league in turnover-worthy plays.
Yeah, it's the turnover-worthy plays. Yeah. There's a new stat for most injury-worthy plays to receivers, and Baker has double the next guy over his career.
No way.
Baker Mayfield puts his players in so much danger. Odell nearly caught a Antonio Brown, Vontaze Burfict type concussion in this last game. For Odell's safety, he should be asked to get traded today. I'm shocked that he was not out of there. My God, do I hope the best for him. Odell, I'm sorry, you're gone. You're on my waiver wire at this point.
I'm keeping him on my bench because my benches are too deep. I'm not starting him again, though. What about Allen Robinson? It's the same way. All 3 of these players, we're going to list them all. Allen Robinson, Laviska Shenault, and Odell. I'm just benching all 3 of them. I think I can't drop them because my benches are 10-man deep, and I can't drop them. There's nobody. I'm not dropping them for Van Jefferson or Boston Scott. If you're in a 10-man league or if your bench is only 6, consider it, but I'm not doing it. If you have 10 bench spots, I'm not dropping any of those 3. So
Allen Robinson and Odell, they're in the same situation. They're still talented players. The team runs the ball better than their quarterback can throw the ball. The difference is that, they're not delivering, and it's mostly on their quarterback. And I'm sorry if I have 6 bench spots. I want someone I could trust playing, and at this point, I have no reason to trust either of them going out there any week. I'd rather go let someone else make the decision. They weren't traded this week, but I'm still trading them to the waiver wire. Laviska Shenault, I'll roster him because of how many injuries that the Jaguars wide receivers and now James Robinson are facing. So I'm more comfortable playing Shenault on a weekly basis than I am Allen Robinson and Odell. That's a problem.
Yeah.
And for that reason, Odell and A-Rob can go, and I'll keep.
Yep. All right. That was our stash or trash. Hopefully, we helped you guys decide which players you need to drop to get some players off your waiver wire. That's our show for Tuesday, at least. Thank you so much for watching. If you're watching live, we appreciate it. If you're watching the feed or listening, we appreciate that too. Our next show will be Friday, audio version on all podcasting platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, everywhere where there's a podcast available. Please give us a 5-star rating and a review. If you want to watch the video version of that Friday show, it'll be on our YouTube channel, Primetime Fantasy Podcast YouTube channel. The Sunday show is going to be 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. It'll be live. We want to help you guys, help set your lineups, help with your tough decisions. So we want to answer all of your fantasy related questions 11:30 a.m. Eastern time on our Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Our social media, you can find us on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter at PrimeTimeFFPod, YouTube and Facebook, Primetime Fantasy Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. We'll talk to you all on Friday.